Deepesh Nanda. Deepesh has a very, very long history with Tata Power. Tata Power, as you know, is the largest vertically integrated power company in India. It's massive. It's across all of the value chain of the energy and power. You name it, renewable energy, transmission, EV, etc. And we'll speak a lot about that. Deepesh is also the MD and the CEO of Tata Power Renewable, a subsidiary that was established recently but is fastly growing and is doing exceptional work. 3 times renewable energy by 2030, 2 times energy efficiency by 2030. Massive, too ambitious, realistic. Deepesh, maybe I start with you. Can you please give us a perspective of what does that represent at the global scale?
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me here, and I appreciate that I've got this platform. So I think our collective success in reducing greenhouse gases will be determined by the fact if we can limit temperature increase of the 1.5 degree question. Now to do that, the carbon emissions that we have today, 36.8 gigatons, by 2030 has to be 23 gigatons. Now, today our installed base of renewable energy globally is in the range of 3,300 gigawatts to 3,400 gigawatts. So that's the 3x question. Mathematically, if you got to limit the temperature increase to 1.5, this has to go up to 11,000 gigawatts. Within that, if I have to give you broad numbers, solar is approximately 1,000 gigawatts today. That has to go to 5,000 gigawatts. Wind is in the range of 899. That has to go to almost 3,500. The mix of the hybrid solution that we have today between wind and solar represents 10% of the grid. This has to go up to 45%. Lastly, there will be a play for hydro. And you will see that hydro in this math equation, for us to hit that 1.5 degree and no more, grow 3x and 2x in terms of efficiency, it needs to be around 17%. If you then calculate all of this into simple numbers, what we need to add every year is 1,000 gigawatts. We're in the range of 350 today. So that's the 3x. Now let me give you an example of what India is doing today. So India in 2014, we had this ambitious target of adding 500 gigawatts by the year 2030. Back then we had a single digit installed base of wind and solar. This was 2014. Today we have 179 gigawatts. We have grown at a cumulative growth rate of 9%. Now for us to hit 500 by 2030, and you talk to anybody in this forum or outside on India's ambition, it's very well defined. 500 gigawatts by 2030. We are at 179. Now people question this, that can you achieve 500? And I come here and I hear about the 3x. 500 by 179 is less than 3x. So I think from an India perspective, we are well towards that target of contributing to the 3x.
Targets, leadership, country leadership in setting these targets and making these decisions, these choices. The frameworks, policy frameworks, investment frameworks, regulatory frameworks, capital, you touch a bit on technology. Let's bring a bit this to life in India. And you spoke a bit about India saying 500 gigawatt is a target. We already started. What did India do across all of these elements, and is it the right mix?
I think it took a while for us to come together, but if you look at what's happening today, 2023-24, April to March 24, we've already seen government bidding activity for 20 gigawatts of wind and solar. The pipeline between now and end of the year, which is 31st of March 24, is another 22 gigawatts. So that's almost 40 to 45 will get auctioned and awarded. Now, in terms of market efficiency, the way the Indian government goes about this is that everything is on competitive reverse bidding. Bidders get 8 minutes on a computer screen to bid and win. If you change a bid within 8 minutes, the clock is reset for another 8 minutes. At the end of the bidding, the winners are announced. Within 3 days, the letter of intent is offered. Within a month, the PPA is given. But the challenge is in terms of infrastructure and connectivity. So the first things that we need to check is land available and is the connectivity available? That's the first one. The other is that in terms of financing, there is no dearth of financing, but I think within that, just to improve the cost efficiency, what's the hedging cost? Because the Indian PPAs are not dollarized currently. Next one is policy. The policy within the 28 states of India is not uniform. There are states which have better policies than the others. So that's another double click for us to see. Lastly, I would say that there's a big constraint in terms of skills. People available with the competence that's required for this industry. And since there is a fast-paced movement in this industry, there is almost an investment super cycle. To get talent, to train talent, and to retain talent, I think is an important element, which at times just gets missed when you talk about these large numbers.
And you said the cost of a technology on solar and wind maybe went down. It's now much cheaper to produce power through solar and wind than other traditional means. Is it similar in other parts of the value chain? What about energy efficiency? Is a technology part important there? Maybe Deepesh, from your point of view?
I'd say that from an India perspective, and this is applicable even globally, the problem statement is not the generation of the renewable electron. It's the round-the-clock generation of the electron with a 90% availability. So the newer tenders which are coming up in India have a mandatory requirement that at least for the 4 hours peak in the morning, so India has 2 peaks, and the evening 4 hours, you offer 90% availability. So what that does is that pushes you towards coming up with hybrid solutions. And then you could have 2-3 combinations in terms of how do you achieve the headline of X megawatts round the clock with a 90% PLF or the 90% CUF. Now the options that India has is always to solve for the cost of electricity. LNG, unfortunately, is not a solution for India because the landed cost of gas is in the range of $14 to $15 per MMBTU. That would translate to a cost of electricity of 10 to 11 cents, US cents per kilowatt hour. And hence, we're seeing more and more solutions coming up with wind, solar, battery. The other thing that Tata Power has done is that we have started a 6 gigawatt hour battery facility because most tenders which are now coming up are with a mandatory requirement for battery. And when we solve for the cost of electricity for the 90% availability, we're seeing that the cost of electricity is 5 cents per kilowatt hour. The next, we have invested in pumped hydro. So we've just announced a 2,800 megawatt pumped hydro solution. We have existing reservoirs. We will just repurpose them to have pumped hydro. And the whole purpose is that by 2027, we'll be in a position to offer this in combination to wind, solar, battery maybe, pump storage, and again solve for the cost of electricity. So that's where the efficiency discussion is moving. I'm really excited with the technology developments which are happening on the battery front, especially the chemistry of the cathode, longer duration battery, higher cycle time, and so on. And I think this will solve that energy equation in terms of efficiency moving 2x to solve that headline problem statement of giving round-the-clock electricity with a 90% availability.
Money and technology and lights, isn't it?
Never.
Where's the social part of it, and can you comment a bit on it? Maybe.
So the Indian government came up with the production-linked incentive program to encourage manufacturing. And Tata Power was the first company that took that program, and we have built a 4.3 gigawatt cell and module manufacturing facility in Tamil Nadu, which is in South India. Now the social aspect of that is that 83% of our workforce there are women within a 100-kilometer radius. 83% out of 3,300 workforce which is at that plant. That plant will be fully commissioned by March of this year. In terms of our businesses that we have, so we have this large-scale utility business. Then we have an EPC business, we build our own plants. Then we have group captive, we sell to the private sector, RE100 companies. We also have rooftop solar. And then we have microgrids. So microgrids, they enter into the hinterland of India and they provide electricity to people who have not seen electricity ever in their lifetime. Another example of how we make an investment in coming up with microgrids so that far-flung regions of India have access to electricity.
On business partnerships required, How do you think about it? What makes sense? What comes together well? Is this about long term or is this about bringing short term and quick solutions?
I think it's both about the short term and the long term. The one area that we've been focused is on partnerships related to supply chain. Extremely crucial for us, whether it's importing raw material for our plant that makes the cell and modules, or whether it's having frame agreements with onshore and offshore wind turbine suppliers. The other one is on technology. We know what we know, but then the ecosystem of technology in terms of, say, hydrogen, for example, the benefits of what IRA may produce in the United States, how fast can that be made available in the rest of the world? I think that's another piece of innovation that we'd like to embrace.
Your experience, your long experience in that field, you've been on setting strategies, on setting policies, on driving your businesses. Sheer magnitude of the challenge, urgent, ambitious, yet realistic. You're going back to your business. Help us out. As a CEO, what is the one thing that you adopt?
You know, I lived all my life in the city of Chennai, which is in South India. And this morning I wake up and look at the newspapers. Chennai is flooded to an extent that it's never been flooded before. And then my WhatsApp is kind of spammed with pictures of the airport in Chennai and the streets of Chennai. And that kind of tells me that the purpose and the goal that we have is larger and the impact is immediate. And in terms of the overall theme, again, back to Tata Power, we have an install base of 4.2 gigawatt. We have a pipeline of another 4.8. This is 2023. By next year, we'll be close to 10. By 2030, we'll be 20 or above. And then you apply this equation that if you solve for cost of electricity and returns for the investor, it's our responsibility to grow 3x and to make sure that the temperature is contained to 1.5 degrees and not more. Because if it is more, you're seeing everyday examples of what that can do to mankind.